solve the system by substitution. So when we start this, there are two equations here. We take one equation and we solve for a variable, any variable. So I'm going to take the first equation and solve for y. So we have 2x plus y equals 3, which means that y is equal to negative 2x plus 3. And so now I have to write the second equation on the second spot. And here I have 3x plus 2y equals 7. Now I'm going to circle the variable I'm about to substitute for, which is y. And so I'm going to have 3x plus 2, and then in parentheses, I'm going to place my negative 2x plus 3. And this comes from the fact that y is equal to negative 2x plus 3. So when you solve for x, you start by, you bring down 3x, you're going to have negative 4x plus 6, because 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and 2 times 3 is 6. And now you just combine the like terms. You have negative 1x plus 6 equals 7. When you subtract 6 on both sides, this is the opposite of plus 6, so you have to subtract 6. And then now you're going to have negative 1x is equal to 1. When you divide by negative 1, x is equal to negative 1, because you have to get rid of that negative 1 right there. Now if x is equal to negative 1, you've got your second variable that you can now also substitute on the last step. So on the last step, you're going to write, it's better to write the equation you have already started with. So I take this over here, and I'm going to have y equals negative 2x plus 3. But this time, I'm going to circle the x and replace it with my negative 1 from here. And so I have y equals negative 2 times negative 1 plus 3. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. So y equals 5. So the solution to this system is going to be written as an ordered pair. It is negative 1 comma 5. And that's the answer. The two variables here are nickels and dimes. So we can use x for nickels and y for dimes. Since we know that the total that she has, total means to add the sum. So it's the nickels plus the dimes should give you $6. And because nickels are worth 5 cents, you have to actually multiply the number of nickels, which is x, times 5 cents, and the number of dimes, y, times 10 before you add them. Or else it will just be like saying 3 nickels plus 5 dimes equals $7. Well, that's not right. So you can't just say x plus y. You have to actually multiply it by how much it's worth. Now the next equation says she has, the number of nickels she has is 2 more than 3 times as many dimes. So what does that mean? It means that the nickels, which is my x, is going to be equal to 3 times the dimes plus 2 more. So it's going to be 3 times the dimes, but 2 more than that is plus 2, which is add 2. So these are my two equations. For this one, you have the option of using any method of your choice. It just says solve systems of linear equations. So I'm just going to use elimination because I used substitution on the last step. So for elimination, we start by making sure the variables are lined up, and this is already lined up, but the coefficients have to be the same. Now, it depends on which variable you want to eliminate. So it's up to you to decide which one you want to eliminate. Now um, we have y, and the coefficient of y, even though it's not written down, it's a 1. And so if I need to make that and this is a -7, so if I want to make this 1 into a 7 to match up with the -7, I have to multiply the first equation by 7. So this is going to change. I'm going to take my whole first equation here and I'm going to multiply it all by by 7. So times 7. Now this equation is going to change. It's now going to become 35x positive 7y and then positive 63, because 5 times 7 is 35, 1 times 7 is 7, and 9 times 7 is 63. Then I bring the other equation to the bottom, and in this case I did not change it, so I'll leave it alone. 10x minus 7y is equal to -18. In this step, I combine both equations. So when I say combine, I'm talking about adding them. So when I do 35x plus 10x and bring it down, it's going to give me 45x. And when I add 7x to -7y, I'm going to get 0. So I don't need to write it down. On the other side of the equation, 63 minus 18 will give me 45 as well. And when I divide both sides by 45, I'm actually going to get, so 45 divided by 45 is 1, but I don't need to write the 1. So I just write x is equal to positive 1. So 45 divided by 45 is 1, and x is 1. Now on the last step, I just circle the variable I'm about to substitute, which is x, and I'm going to write any of the equations from the beginning, from the original point, and I think in this case we'll go with 5x plus y equals 9. You can choose any of these two equations, and because x is circled here, we're going to replace x with 1. So this is going to give me 5 times 1 plus y equals 9. Well, that means 5 plus y equals 9. And if I subtract 5 on both sides, then y is equal to 4. So my solution here is 1 comma 4, because x is 1 and y is 4. The two equations here are 5x plus 2y equals 48 and 3x plus 2y equals 32. X represents the cost of the adult tickets, and that's what we're actually interested in, so we don't have to go and solve all the way. We can just solve for x. So in order to do that, we can solve by elimination since they're already lined up, and we have the same variable for y, same coefficient for y, but we're going to change maybe the first equation by multiplying times -1, so that the equation becomes -5x -2y, or you can say minus 2y, equals -48. Now I'm not going to change the second equation. I'm just going to write it on the bottom. 3x plus 2y equals 32, because we need to just make sure that the variables have opposite signs if we want to combine them so that it can be eliminated. So We eliminate this because it's going to give me 0, so I don't need to write it down. And then 5x, a negative 5x plus 3x is going to give me negative 2x. And negative 48 plus 32 is going to give me a negative 16. Now when I divide by negative 2, I'm going to have 1x, because negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1, but I'm not going to write that down. I'll just write x equals 8. And since that is all we're interested in, I don't need to solve. I can stop right here and say 8 adult tickets. And that's it.